collect files, do you get rid of the subs eventually, or you just keep accumulating
I keep
all
accumulating.
those subs?
Massive amounts of data.
Yeah,
Yeah, right, right.
I've got I've got 7 portable hard drives to put it on.
Okay.
Yeah, closet full of USB hard drives. It's a byproduct of this hobby.
So I was going to ask the same question about how you, not so much how you store files on a device, but how you actually categorize the files that you do store.
Oh, I developed my own little system. Maybe this will be helpful for somebody. Okay, when I'm done shooting, I'll pull the flash drive out of the ASI Air or whatever scope I'm using, and I'll transfer that to one of my portable hard drives connected to this computer. And that's basically untouched, just straight transfer. And of course, I clear out the flash drives. And I also uh, put a new folder in for each one of these transfers, and I put a date on it. And in the next hard drive, which is when I start processing, okay, first of all, each folder, I have a folder for each month, okay, and then there's subfolders in there of the date, okay, and which scope it was, because I label the folders according to telescopes too. And then once I start processing things, then I put them in another hard drive, and those are processed images and they're labeled as such. And it's very easy to keep track of everything that way. And
Mhm.
if I see stuff that's bad data or whatever, I dump it, because it's not going to do anything except take up space. But I have stuff that's good that I, imaged 2, 3 4 years ago. I keep all of that because as I advance more in the hobby, I can always go back and process that maybe in a different way and see if I come out with better results.
Yeah, I do a similar thing to what Bill does. I mean, basically, I use SharpCap for the capture, which basically there's just a root SharpCap folder, and every date, every time you take an image, it goes into a new folder that's for that date. So everything is just by date. But what I do is in the name of the image I'm taking under SharpCap, I say what the image is, but I also put the equipment, what scope I'm using, what camera, any filters, things like that. That's all part of the title. So it may say the Crescent Nebula 8-inch, the 482 camera with a certain filter, an IR cutoff filter or something. And so I'll have that there. And then when I'm done processing the pictures, in the name of the final image, I'll incorporate all that data. I have the time and the date and that in it. So if I ever want to go back and process it, the date is in there. So I can always go back to a SharpCop for that date, and it's going to match up directly. So it makes it, and it kind of happens all by itself by just putting the name in as you capture each object. You're only doing well, I end up doing about 4 or 5 a night sometimes, but a lot of these guys will spend the entire night or multiple days. But it's just you want to come up with a system though, so you can get back to it. And what Bill said, I keep the raws too for the purpose of at least as far as deep sky, because as new processing comes out, you can redo them and you can get better results.
Right.
With the on the planetary stuff where I'm shooting just these videos get huge. I mean, well, they get big like these. If you have a high res deep sky camera, they get big too. But I mean, any video of a planet or something, even if you crop the region of interest down, you're talking it could easily be 8 or 11 gigs of data for just one video, and you got a bunch of these files. So it's 200 or 300 gigs of data in one night that I'll just once I'm done stacking and I'm happy with it, I'll just delete all the video files. So now I'm down in the megabyte range versus gigabyte range. So anyway, but it's
Good,
good to have a
thanks.
backup drive or multiples, like Bill says, because you're not going to keep them on your main computer as you
Right.
back these up. So that you can get some fairly inexpensive drives. They're like a 4 terabyte or an 8 terabyte or a 20 or even bigger, that aren't that expensive, and you can keep those up. It's good actually, it's in general just to back your whole computer up, so you have all your data of maybe you have tax information on there or other information, things you don't want to lose. That way, if you lost your disk or your hard drive, your SD drive in your computer, you can at least get back home again with a new computer pretty easy.
Yeah, I've got a hard drive that I back everything up on, but I don't have anything that's specific for astrophotos, but I'm going to start to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And I
really.
don't have nearly the amount of data that you guys have because I'm just starting in this.
Accumulates
But it does
adds
add
up
up.
quick.
It's kind of unbelievable
quickly
how
though.
it
Yeah, it
adds
really
up.
does.
I'm getting into my 4th year and still consider myself a baby in this. And yeah, the data really accumulates, I will tell you.
Yeah,
There's no way to
Microsoft, a
compress
bunch
it.
of five terabyte drives. They're about $100. That's like not bad to get started.
That holds a lot. You can do a lot with that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm still working on my first one.
Now, one of the boosts that I got is when I retired, some of these hard drives were holding kitchen designs and stuff like that. So guess what? That all went out into the phantom zone, and now I've got 7 portable hard drives sitting here with a huge amount of space. Plus, I've got the one in the computer, which is pretty big too. So I don't want to crowd up the computer, so I keep everything in those portable hard drives, and they're fast enough for what we're doing. Go lay down, buddy. My buddy's here.
Yeah, that's lucky.
So is there any particular topic, or is it image sharing time, or
Yeah, honestly, we could probably show and tell for a while. I'd be happy doing that. What do you guys want to do?
No, I'm open for anything.
that usually brings up some questions anyway when people are showing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we can jump into it. Who wants to go first?
No, I got nothing processed. So, oh, Tom, maybe about 4 or 5 workshops ago, you asked me a question on one of my images, what filter I used, and the image was the core of the Heart Nebula. And I told you there was no filter used. I was
And you
wrong.
lied to me.
That was
You lied to me.
That was an L-enhanced filter. No, what it is I was confused because I had 2 sets of images, one with the filters and one without, but the one you saw was with the filter. I just got them mixed up, that's all.
Well, I have very little to share, so maybe I'll start off to get things, just to kick things off. I just have 2 shots of the moon that I took. It was early in the morning. It was like 2:30 in the morning. I was ready to close up. I saw the moon was close to clearing my house. So the moon is right above my roof. And I normally wouldn't even think about shooting it, but I'd up so late, I might as well do something, while I'm up. So I can,
That's enough, buddy.
so you guys see my screen there?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are just 3,
Okay.
bring that down.
Go, go.
I'm all over the place here.
Oh yeah.
Start this first. This is one of the moon. Now it's close to the roof, so it was a bit boily, but I thought it was interesting. I kind of like these shots that are close to the poles, because you can sometimes get these shots that look more like something flying over versus looking down on it. So
What camera,
Beautiful,
Tom?
Tom.
this actually is a color camera. I was shooting Saturn this night. It was back late August, and so it's the 462 MC. And I didn't want to swap it out, so I just kept the same camera on. So this is actually not a black and white camera. I normally would use probably my 174 cameras, bigger pixels, but I had this this is just through 10. This is prime focus on the 10-inch with that camera. Because it's a long focal length scope, 86 plus inches. So that's the one. Then let me bring this up. Here's another one of the straight wall, but it's bright versus dark because it's closer to last quarter than first quarter. So it gives you a view that sometimes you don't get to see unless you're up
That's a
late.
great shot, Tom.
Thanks.
That's beautiful, Tom.
But,
And you got those wrinkle ridges, like really,
yeah, I was happy with the
really
wrinkles. I
cool.
was surprised actually because, like I said, the sky was not that cooperative. I shot a lot of frames, but it was still I was happy with it. And then I have kind of a goofy thing, which I do a lot of times. I tend to do this more if there's a meteor shower, but we're up at that Big Dipper Lodge. This is the last thing I have, and this is a GIF. All I did was take the 462, same camera again, and it comes with like a pseudo fisheye lens, about a 140-degree field of view lens, and it's good. I wanted to show people who hadn't been to the Big Dipper Lodge that it's a pretty wide open field. I mean, it's not quite as wide as Cherry Springs. It's right down the road. It's less than a half a mile from Cherry Springs, but it kind of shows that it's a pretty wide open sky, and we were very fortunate in that we had several clear nights in a row, and but these are always kind of fun to do. You always hope for some like a bow line to break up and cross the field and have this great shot, which I've never had that experience yet, but it's still kind of fun just to have things, just to kind of get the flow of things. You can notice here you have some. This is actually some air glow coming in a little bit. You see over here. I didn't notice it at the time, but I mean visually, I never really noticed air glow, but you can see a little bit kind of rippling up from the bottom there. I mean, visually, you didn't notice anything. So I just put this all on a tripod, let it run till my laptop died. The battery died driving. It was about 4 or 5 hours. And we see the Big Dipper Lodge at the bottom and stuff. And anyway, it just kind of gives you an idea of what that experience was. So that's my stuff.
That's pretty cool. That has,
Thanks, Tom.
I guess that camera has no IR block in it, so we're seeing some infrared.
Yeah, you are seeing the infrared because it doesn't have any IR block in. In fact, like most of the ZWO cameras, it's really sensitive in the IR. It just keeps going. You gotta, when I'm shooting anything else through it, like through the telescope, I always put an IR block filter in because, especially with the planets, you just get better results.
Yeah, I guess you really, when it has the little screw-in filter, I mean the lens that comes with it, really you'd have to do something externally, but that has like the glass protrudes on that, right?
Yeah,
So
it does a little
it'd
bit.
be a little
Yeah,
tricky
I mean,
to do
it
that.
would be tricky. I don't, and it's small too. I mean, it isn't like an inch and a quarter, that piece. It's actually probably less than an inch. Actually, it's a small lens, and the circle that it's mounted in, shall we say, is you have to make a small like fake, jig up to hold like an IR cut filter. But
Yeah,
anyway, that's just I always do that if the sky is pretty good. It's kind of fun.
that's cool.
Anyway, so I'm done.
That's beautiful. Thanks.
Well, I got something.
Hey. Oh yeah, get you hooked up here, Steve.
Been working on a project, which is a permanent pier just off of my patio in the back. So am I ready to go here?
You should be.
Yeah. Okay.
See share at the bottom?
A little up arrow and a green box. There it goes. I see your web browser. There it is.
See my slaves? So it's my son and my grandson digging me a hole and putting some cement in there, getting my 4x4s in the ground. And that's going to be the pier.
Very cool.
So this is it here.
Hey,
Neat.
Pretty
So
good.
Very cool.
most of this is new. This is an Orion, 8-inch
One of the
f4,
last ones sold, probably.
probably, and I didn't know it at the time,
right?
but it was in terrible condition the way it came in. I had to spend 2 days on the bench actually doing what the manufacturer should have been doing, which is tighten screws, align, fix binds, collimation that was horrible. So I put it out once just to take a look at where I was at and realized I had a lot of work to do here. So I brought it back in and and then got it back out again one night when the moon was full and the clouds are coming through. So I probably have one first light image, but the other thing here is this is the new Warp Astron mount, the strain wave mount. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that.
That looks fancy.
So this is a direct drive servo motors in this particular design.
What's the capacity on that, Steve?
So without counterweights, originally they said 33 pounds, and then they dropped it down to 29.
That's still decent. That's decent.
With counterweights, it's 44, which come right out the bottom. And I originally, right now, I've got the ASI Air on it just for simplicity's sake to get everything working. Eventually, I'll put the other controller that I have back on it.
Got an OAG too.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that working yet. So I still have issues. This is like just within the last days that I finally got this all together on the mount. And I have one first light image. So this is NGC 7789,
yeah.
the Carolina Rose cluster.
That's a great cluster.
That's great. I was just looking at that visually through Tracy's 8-inch Dob when we were up at Cherry Springs.
I love that cluster.
To go. It's just a great, it's so dense and the stars are just so tiny, tiny, tiny.
So yeah,
pretty good, Steve.
So this is my, this is after a lot of work fixing that. What the manufacturer.
The edges all look good. I mean, the stars look round at the edges and all.
Yeah, it has the coma corrector.
Yeah, it must. Yeah.
So
that's very nice.
That's one of the objects on that Astronomical League asterism list.
Excuse me?
That's one of the objects on the Astronomical League's asterism list. Tracy,
okay.
Tracy and I started doing that when we were up at Cherry Springs.
Yep. But I was happy with that coma corrector. It looks pretty good to me all the way around.
Looks really good.
Which one is that, Steve?
That is the Mark III.
Is that the Batter Mark III?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one I have. I like it, and it's not a ridiculously high price.
So the off-axis guider, I'm going to work with that some more, but last year I tried it and just couldn't do much with it because it wasn't always seeing stars. So I might just go ahead and put a guider, another scope on the top of the guide.
Mm-hmm.
That was my experience with it too. I think I mentioned that before. I tried it for about, I would say about a month, 6 weeks on my C9 1/4. I had a 240 millimeter guide scope on there, and I heard so much about how great off-axis guiding is, and I'm sure it is once it's tuned in, but it just, to me, it fell into the category of it was more trouble than it was worth. I was basically solving a problem I didn't have because I didn't
Yeah.
have any guiding issues. And I had put that on there to think, oh, well, to make the assembly a little lighter, to not have a guide scope and blah, blah, blah. But the stars at the edge of the field, especially on, an SCT, they're really outside of the field, are not the roundest stars. And you're sort of picking and choosing what might be available out there. And then is just losing stars too much. And unless you're in a really star-rich area, it just seemed to be more trouble than it was worth. And I was getting worse guiding with it than I was with the 240 millimeter guide scope.
Well, that's what I found out when I was trying it before, and it would just get frustrating. But another point for Tom and John, since I wasn't guiding, my subs were 5 seconds.
All right.
I was looking up there.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I had 360 subs at 18 megapixels each that I had to process.
How long did it take to stack that?
It smooths your sky out though with all those subs. Your sky gets real smooth. Your background.
Well, the background was not good to begin with.
It's a full moon.
I took the stars out,
Yeah,
I made the background black, and then merged it back together.
Oh.
So I played games with it, but
cool.
Whatever works.
that's all I got.
I have a couple from, I took a bunch of stuff at Cherry Springs. I had the 9 1/4 running with the TV85. And I have all of the 9 1/4 stuff pre-processed. In other words, the calibration of the individual frames, and then stacked, but none of them are post-processed. But I did do a 4-panel mosaic of the veil at Cherry Springs. I had a little over 4 hours per panel. So 4 hours and 9 minutes to be exact panel. And I was really curious to see, first of all, like, was it really going to overlap enough to make a mosaic? Because the second night I went to shoot, the ASI Air somehow like twisted all of the 4 frames in some random pattern. So I had to set it up again. And I also had a problem with some kind of either condensation or circuit board residue or something in the ASI 2600 MC camera that made this horrible, horrible spot, like right in the center. And I didn't realize it until after I shot 6 hours worth of data the night before. Fortunately, I took flats the morning before we moved over to the Big Dipper Lodge. I wasn't even going to do it, but we were kind of like, waiting to know when we could go over there. And I thought, let me just grab some flats, because even though I'm not taking the OTA apart and camera apart, I'm still putting it in the van and, moving it around. Maybe if there's any dust in there, it might move or something. And I'm so glad I did that, because the next morning when I shot, or the next evening when I shot flats again after the second round, there was this horrible, horrible thing there. And in fact, I can even show you that. I think I have, I'll show you afterwards. So let's see, so share. So I'm going to share the screen. And right now you probably just see like a directory in a browser.
Yep.
So, okay, so let's get rid of that. So before we talk about the spots, when it was earlier in the evening, when I was kind of waiting for it to get really dark, I shot a couple hours of the double cluster. The double cluster is just one of my favorite objects. And I've never really shot it under a dark sky sight, because it kind of seems like, why waste the time shooting something bright in a dark sky? But I had seen recently from one of the other people at Cherry Springs that there was there's apparently a lot of HA nebulosity around the double cluster that you don't normally see. And I don't have enough exposure time. I only have 2 hours and 10 minutes of exposure time to get to really have it show up. But you can get hints of it. You can get hints of it in there.
Yeah.
So this is the double cluster shot from a dark sky site. And if I zoom in,
Nice.
you can see, I don't know, well, maybe you can see, I can see it on this monitor. You
Yeah.
can see the
You
hints
can
of
see a
sort
little
of
bit
red.
of, yeah, kind of a reddy brown. Yeah, certainly.
And this would be the site where you would pick that up. You can see that all throughout there. The guy next to me, this guy Brandon, who was across the street from me at Cherry Springs at the main field, he said he had to shoot narrowband HA filter for about 10 hours to really pick up the nebulosity, and then he superimposed that on basically an RGB version of the double cluster. This is shot with a one-shot color camera with the TV85. But it's still, I just love the the way the star colors in that area are, and just how they look like diamonds. I mean, they just
Yeah,
look.
that really came out nice.
So that's that. That's a single frame. That's not a mosaic, obviously. And then the mosaic is this. So this is four panels. It's a little over 5 degrees wide. Oh, I'm sorry. That was from the Valley Forge. I'll show that after. So this is the
Well, that's
Wow,
neat.
Gary.
Right.
that's
pretty
the
neat.
Veil mosaic shot with 4 hour and 9 minute exposures. The 3 minute subs. The double cluster was 2 minute subs. This is shot 3 minute subs with a big glob of something on the sensor. It's amazing what darks can calibrate out. I mean, flats, I meant to say. It is amazing what flats can calibrate out.
Wow.
Because I cannot see any trace of it if I zoom way in.
Huh.
But the thing that got me with this, being in a dark sky site, is all that, as I guess Lou calls it, that background flux stuff.
Yeah.
I've never really been able to get that. I've shot this up at Frank's. I've shot this in my backyard, and that's just not there. Or if it is, it's too faint to really see. And this is really hot off the press. I haven't even, I got it merged like right before we sat down to eat dinner. So this still needs some final curves adjustment, things like that. But since it's shot with with a medium field camera, you can really kind of zoom in on it because there's a lot of data there. This is what would it be? It would be like 12,000 pixels across, something like that. 10,000 pixels across and 8,000 pixels high, something like that.
And what focal length was your scope?
480 millimeters. So it's a little bit undersampled. It's like 1.62 arc seconds per pixel. So a tiny bit undersampled, but it wasn't worth drizzling. It's funny, when I had the images, I got like this warning method from PixInsight saying, you might not want to wait as long as it's going to take if I do drizzle integration with all this stuff.
Yeah, it's 100 megapixels.
Yeah, it's a big image.
Yeah.
Even the JPEG and a sort of high quality JPEG is like 61 megabytes.
Yeah.
Phew.
It's big.
And the native PixInsight file for this is like 2.2 gigabytes.
Yeah.
For one file. It's just insane when you start to do these big projects. But I think it's pretty cool.
It is cool.
Neat photo.
So that's that.
Gary, you should send that into the astronomy photo of the day, because where do you ever see shots like this with all that flux in there?
Yeah, I've never seen that. That's kind of very unusual.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I haven't either. And I don't know if because a lot of times people will bring the black point too high and it just suppresses it, or if it's just because it was in a dark sky site. I mean, if I look at, let me grab that real fast. If I open up the one from Frank's, just give me 1 second here. So Blue Mountain Vista, Western Vale, Eastern Vale. Eastern Vale. So this is one that I didn't do this as a mosaic, but I realized after the fact that I kind of had sort of two halves of it, and I could just put them together roughly just to see what it looked like, see what I was missing. So that's that from Frank's. The other thing, this one was shot with a dual band filter.
Mm-hmm.
You can see some of this stuff up here. Some of that stuff, but no comparison to that. This is shot with no filter, no contrast, no light pollution, no nebula booster. It's just a clear glass.
Straight up.
Gas filter wins.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, yeah.
And even the pinks are more the hydrogen emission is more the color it's supposed to be. That's the one
Right,
thing
yeah.
I noticed with filters is it makes the HA stuff really red as opposed to that pink that it really is. It really is
And
more
even the blues, you know, because you lose the blues with those if you have the filters, because the oxygen 3 is just going to be green.
No, you've
And
got a
in
vibrancy
reality, it's
to
blue
this.
and pink is what it really is, you know?
yeah.
That's really
It's
beautiful.
correct.
Hmm.
And then last thing I have is
That's really nice, Gary.
thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, I was really anxious. I was getting I was really getting anxious. Like as I was waiting for it to sign to see if it really did have overlap because
Yeah, really.
it might not have. There could have been a little sliver missing or something. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
that would have been depressing. 16
Right.
hours of exposures.
But
Have
like
it just
I felt
missed
like
by a hair.
yeah, I felt like my heart was beating a little faster. And then when I was at Valley Forge, I brought the same rig, except I did put the Nebula Boost filter, that IDAS NBZ filter that I use, and shot the North American Nebula because I was curious to see if you could even get that at Valley Forge Park. So this is 18 minutes. This is 30-second exposure. So not quite 5-second, Tom, but pretty short.
Short with the filter, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That was with the filter.
Yeah,
But I tell you, I'm amazed that that's 18 minutes under those skies. There were clouds going through. It was hazy. The moon was out. I mean, the moon wasn't very far from this object. And with the light pollution, you know, with the nebula boost filters, these are, I think they're around 12 nanometers, so they're not real narrow. Each pass band, that dual band filter. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat for 18 minutes. You can see it's noisy. There's still a lot of noise in it, but it's 18 minutes.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of nebula there though for 18 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
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 Why
Really.
only 18 minutes, Gary? Just because you didn't want to spend too much time with it, or
Oh, I was showing people different objects.
It was
So
the Star Party, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Star Party. So I did like M27 earlier in the night when it was still light, not quite dark out because that's really bright. And then I did this later on. It just kind of how it worked out. I was thinking of doing 30 minutes each, but 30 minutes seemed a little long. So I was going to do 20, but then I just cut it a little short because people were asking, hey, is there anything else we could look at? So where am I here?
Cool.
Oh, and then if you want to see the dirt, let me, this blob, whatever's on it. I'll open this up. Anyway, one other quick thing about the processing. This, you know, doing this thing in PixInsight where I can keep every step makes it much easier to make these all look the same because, you know, there's conditions are slightly different each night. And the main thing that I found is that if you get your black points about correct, like if you put the bulk of your histogram in around the same spot so that curves and everything works, and you could do that by adjusting the black point, I don't really have to touch any of the other functions. So the curves like something like that. If I do, if I show the histogram, if I have my black point set so that curves, so that the bulk of the data is sitting in this lower 25 percentile zone, so that I'm not blowing out the bright stuff, or I'm not clipping the blacks, then I can use the same functions to get repeatability in the processing.
Yeah, that's tricky doing that.
So here's like the black point. So let me bring the curve up. So this was a black point adjustment because 3 of the images, I used 1 as a reference, and then the other 3, I kind of adjusted the black point a second time to get them to align, to get these, you know, the bulk of the data to align properly. So you can see this would be before and this is after. So a very minor adjustment of black point, still far from clipping. There's still room to go. Like if I were to, you know, tweak that further, I'm not going to save this, but if I were to tweak that further, you can see like now I'm clipping data, but you can see how much is up there even if you clip a lot of data. That flux stuff is fairly
Yeah, I'm
bright.
surprised how bright the flux is when you clip all of that. It's still there. Wow, that's incredible.
So I've been, like I mentioned last month, I've been trying to leave more room on the bottom, because if you really zoom in, I try to find like a dark area and zoom way in. I don't want to see this clipping. I don't want to see this going to black. Or if it does, it would be just at the edge of it, so you don't get these blotchy. I found that if you push the black point too high, you wind up getting blotchy stuff in the kind of the background space. But even here, you can see some of the nebulosity. There's stuff all over the place. That just blows my mind how sensitive these cameras are, that you can see all this stuff.
So much dynamic range.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And let me find one of those. I'll get the master flat. So here's the let's see, Vail. I don't want Blue Mountain Vista. I want I want Cherry Springs. Here we go. So so this is before and after. Let's do it that way. So here's what a flat should look like and what my flats do look like. Once that opens up. Hold on, let me just open it. So Cherry Springs, Vail Complex, whoops. So here's a flat. So that's what my flats typically look like. Right? Relatively clean. I keep really clean sensors. I do Tom's trick. I always have it pointing down. The cap's off for like a second. If that, it's just off and in the OTA, blah, blah, blah. This is the next evening when I went to shoot flats. This is what came up. I probably should open it this way. All right. I think sometimes if the file name gets, or the file spec, the path gets too long, it can make drag and drop not behave well. So let's see. So master flat post spot. Here we go. So we'll get rid of these. They're the high and low rejection. So that's what was there the next day.
Oof. Wow.
Wow.
Terrible.
After shooting 6 hours worth of lights, which would have been the bottom two panels of that, which would have meant if I couldn't use the data, then the whole mosaic thing would have been for naught. So I would have lost basically 3 nights worth of shooting.
Ooh.
And
Can you zoom back in on that?
I'm sorry.
Can you zoom back in on that?
Yeah.
So did you ever figure out what it is?
I don't really know. It's tiny. And this is the bulk of it, but then there was this ring. And then even if I played with the histogram here, you'd see a little bit of smearing here and stuff like that. And then interesting enough, when I bought a cleaning kit, so I think something condensed on the sensor. It was incredibly, incredibly humid. And I know it's a sealed compartment. It's O-ring sealed. I mean, when I took the camera apart, it was quite impressive how well it was put together. It's hard to imagine anything being in there other than that, just some trapped moisture in the little desiccant pads inside maybe were spent or something like that. But interestingly enough, before I went to clean it, I decided to take some flats, so I would have them as a reference to just kind of like put in a file somewhere that, hey, this is what it was. And there was a second one here.
Ah.
There was a second one right about there. So somewhere after packing up on Friday morning and leaving the scope in the van, sitting on the bed for a few days, a second one appeared. And it looks like it was some kind of almost looked like some kind of a manufacturing residue or something. It wasn't oil like they had the problem before. It wasn't that silicon oil. It was something that had dried up and made like almost like a little crystal. And you could tell it's the actual size of it is that. And then you get shadows, and there was some rings because of maybe it was a bigger spot of something, and it kind of, as it evaporated, it turned into this. It kind of
Very round. I mean, really,
yeah. Oh
it
yeah.
isn't irregular at all.
Fortunately, I learned how to clean a sensor because I had never cleaned a sensor before, and I was pretty nervous about it. But there is protective glass. You're not just putting an anti-lint pad over the Bayer mask or something like that. There is another layer of glass, obviously, and it's multi-coated, and it seems if you use the right solution and the right technique, and there's a lot of YouTube videos out there on it.
So you
came out
cleaned
good.
you cleaned this off. Is that correct?
I did clean it.
And that got rid of it.
That got rid of it. Yeah, it was easy. I mean, the first swipe across took it away, but that left some streaks, and then you kind of swipe back again, and you discard that little swab, and then you use the solution it's actually anywhere from 91 to 100% ethyl alcohol, or 91 to 99% ethyl alcohol, or combined with 1 to 9% methyl alcohol. So I think it's probably it's supposed to be ethyl alcohol, but the manufacturing process for making this stuff isn't perfect. So that's why they give the range. But it's like 99.999 or something like that. I think it was 3 decimal points pure. So it doesn't leave any residue. But typical of my way my goofy brain works sometimes is after the third swab doing this, it looked pretty darn good. And then I thought, over on the edge, maybe if there was something on the edge, I should probably kind of clean around the edge. And I wound up the little swab thing, the little brush, not a brush, it's like a lint-free paddle. That wound up like touching part of where the active sensor was, and I wound up making a streak. And then it took me two more two more swabs undo not leaving well enough alone. So that leaving well enough alone is a lesson that, I don't know, maybe on my deathbed, I'll realize that I probably should have listened to that little voice saying, it's fine, Gary.
Put the words, leave enough alone.
But I thought that was really kind of wild. My heart sank. Len can tell you, he walked up to me with his friend Jim just as I saw the first preview of the flat. You know, asking kind of like, you know, how things were going, what I was going to work on, right, you know, the mount. And my heart kind of sank. But that's the deal.
Wow.
I don't know if this is
It's all
germane
good.
to the, yeah. I don't know if this pertains to the discussion or not, but years ago, you know, when I had this old watch, I took the stem out and I was winding it and didn't put it in all the way. And then I washed my hands and the thing had moisture under the glass, you know. So I mentioned it to my sister-in-law, who's a jeweler. I was over her house and she said, see that dehumidifier? Put it on the dehumidifier for like an hour or two. So at the end of the night, I come back and it's completely dry. Just being near a dehumidifier. So I don't know whether that would solve the problem or not. You know, I mean, if it was water that was just in there from the manufacturer, you know, that was just, you know, humidity in the air inside there. I mean, it might be pure enough that maybe it would have just evaporated it or not, but that might be a trick that we can try if we ever get into that situation. If we do have a dehumidifier, just try that first and see if it helps, you know, with the sensor.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Because, you know, you would think
Easy
that the
to
watch would be
try.
pretty much sealed. And it dried the whole inside of the watch within hours, you know. It was really crazy. But
Yeah, now
anyway,
this
that's really
was,
cool, Gary.
This was particularly wet this night, and I did something different that I don't usually do. So it could have been the combination of both, but
Yeah.
so I mean, Cherry Springs, I know gets wet. I've been up there, you know, enough time, you know, the dozens and dozens and dozens of times that I know how wet it gets. This was even wet for a Cherry Springs wet night.
Right.
Like, I mean, the stuff was there was moisture dripping off of the equipment at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. So it's possible something got past that O-ring. It's
The
certainly
fact that it's
possible.
right in the middle of the sensor, you know, it leads me to believe that it may, you know, could be condensation.
That's
you
what
know.
I think. I actually think it was more condensation. I mean, another thought could be some flux residue. Maybe the circuit board wasn't fully cleaned when they assembled it. Maybe they
Right.
had, you know, their cleaning process on the circuit
Right.
board left a
Right.
little flux residue, and that flux condensed or something. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the steps in the procedure for cleaning is that there's 4 desiccant pads inside the camera. They almost look like some kind of a breath mint. They look like a cert or something like that, or one of those mini Tums. You put them in the microwave for 2 minutes on medium power. And they got so hot that the little ceramic plate that I had them on, which was 6 inches by 6 inches. Now these are 4 tiny little pads. The 6-inch by 6-inch plate was like hot to the edges. Just from the heat of those
Wow.
packets being in there for 2 minutes on medium heat. So, you know,
Wow.
then you kind of do that right before you're going to put it back together. So everything was clean. Everything was kind of in a as clean a room as I could get. I closed the vents, the windows, the door. I wiped the table down multiple times before I did it. Left the room for like an hour, went in, wiped it down again, you know, stuff like that. I put those things right back in at that point, the little desiccant pads. So hopefully they were bone dry and they'll do their thing and prevent this again. I also cleaned the circuit board while I was in there. I figured why not? So I took some swabs and I just, you know, lightly wiped the circuit board and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens.
So Gary, I don't want to take my whole camera apart. You're saying you stick the whole thing in the microwave to dry the pads occasionally?
I guess that, yeah, I guess the
Yeah.
microwave wouldn't care if
What
there's
could
a metal,
possibly go
if
wrong?
there's a metal
Right, I
can.
mean, you gotta try the pads occasionally, so
Oh,
everything
no.
else is sealed.
Oh, man. So we're I won't be able to do any more processing for a while, but maybe on at the next meeting, I have about, I would say like 8 objects I shot with the C9 1/4. I was doing like 3 hours per object. So I'll show those in the future sometime. But that's it.
Very
So
cool.
Gary, quick question. Your 2600 camera, do you use that most of the time?
I use that for the TV85 and for the C9 1/4 or the C6, I use that little 533 MC.
Okay.
I kind of like, at first I didn't like I wasn't sure how I would like the square format, but I actually really like it.
Yeah, you get used to it.
Yeah, and most of what I'm shooting with that at that 1500 millimeters is like a galaxy, and they're fit pretty well in a square frame, or even like nebulosity or something. Like I shot some planetary nebulas, and even with 1500, it's like 1520 millimeters with the focal reducer. Even with that small sensor and stuff, the planetary nebulas are a tiny little dot, like a blue dot in the middle of it. You really have to zoom in. But one thing that was kind of cool, like it almost filled the frame, but I was surprised how big it was, because in a dark sky sight, I got hold on one second. I think I have it stacked, but I don't have it processed. But you can get a sense of it from the auto stretch. If I drop it in the Pixin site, let me share again. If I drop this in the Pixin site, I shot the Iris Nebula again. I shot that at home. Now this is not processed. This is just stacked, and then auto stretched. But because of all this stuff, that I don't get a lot of this stuff at home.
Yeah.
All this stuff in the background. Yeah, usually at home you get this.
Yeah.
You get that real bright center. And this star is almost impossible to not saturate. Even I actually tried really short subs, and it's a bright star. The
I
center.
think I was saturating on like 5-second subs and I get clipped. It's very challenging, that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay having that blow out, because it's a really bright star, and I think it's worth the trade-off to to get that stuff. These are this is 6 hours worth of data. These are 3-minute subs. So this is 124 3-minute subs. Now, if I turn off auto stretch and bring up how do I get rid of that? I can't see my histogram thing. Let me just go to here. The gallery is hiding my icons. So if I do a histogram transformation on this, so let's reset that and bring up the scale. So let's just stretch it a couple times. Yeah, I'll adjust the green layer too, just for the hell of it. I'll just manually adjust the green layer. This way doesn't have a big color cast in it. But even that, you can see how bright that star is. So that's up in the 90-something%, 91% or so, 98% brightness, 99.96. So that's saturated probably just in the middle. Let me go back to this. This has got a big green cast to it. I didn't adjust this. Yeah, so that's saturated even with just 2 preliminary stretches. So, you can mask that and then just bring up the rest of the stuff. There are ways to address that. But and that is something that I'd say close anyway, yeah. So that is something I would likely do when I actually process this. Because I would protect that area and try to bring up the rest of this. Because I want this in there. I want to keep this stuff.
Mhm.
So
Fine.
anyway,
Sweet.
Okay, well, I have a couple pictures to share.
Let me see. I'll get you hooked up. All right,
I'm
you should be good.
still,
Was that Barb yelling hello earlier? Hello.
yeah,
Okay.
that was
Hello.
yeah, okay. Okay. Is that,
Yeah.
am I sharing?
it says screen brought. Um,
Okay,
you are sharing screen.
okay, and,
It's like we have your desktop. There
Oh,
we
there
go.
you go.
okay, yeah, yeah, so there's, obviously,
That's nice.
M31, and, I was trying to get the whole thing, and so that particular night I was using a, stellar view telescope that had a 560 focal length, and I was using a focal reducer that ended up about 0.8 focal reducer, and that gave me a pretty good result. Except I wanted to get the rest of it in. That was what I was hoping for, but this turned out pretty decent. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
let's see, yeah. So
What was your
then
camera, Wayne?
that's the 533 ASI, 533 MC.
Oh, yeah, square image. I should have
So
known.
yeah, and
Nice.
Yeah, very nice.
so there's what happened when I went with a small a focal reducer that ended up as 0.42 focal reducer. I had huge, very prominent vignetting on the flat field that I shot in the beginning. And I did not go through the images, but I think this is a result of the fact that the lens got fogged over at some point. So when I have the time, I'll go through them and see where that happened and see if I can tell that that's what it was. Even with a flat field, the flat field was done at the beginning of the evening, so this could have happened during the sequence. So,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah,
That's a good guess what happened there.
yeah. I had a huge amount of coma or distortion at the edges, and I was running using Cyril to process it, and I ran a script that says fix out of shape stores, and it did a great job of doing that. And so the stores aren't blurry, but I if I tried to stretch the galaxy, I got that circle. So
You said it was a 0.5 nominal focal reducer, but because of the tube
yeah,
was
but
in there.
with the spacing on the when the plate solving was done, it came out to 0.42 effective focal
Right.
reduction.
Which is a pretty hefty focal reduction.
Really heavy.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is a
yeah.
lot.
So considering the vignetting and the streaking of the outer stores, I'm not going to try that again. I can use a different combination if I want, but the other
That-
one I worked on was
What's the diameter, Wayne, of the focal reducer?
the diameter. It's the same as it's an inch and a quarter.
So it's
It's
inch
an-
and a quarter, because so that might be tight for that sensor, right? Because that's a
That-
one
yeah.
inch per side. So your
Yeah.
1 inch diagonal is
And
bigger.
this was, yeah, and uh, this was the focal reducer that came with the Revolution Imager. And I had a 20 millimeter extension on it to separate it from the sensor. And that produced a 0.42 effective result. So the other one I took was, here it is.
Hmm.
Oh, cool.
Ehrlich.
Deer Lick group, and my first 1 hour of exposure was centered on the Galaxy NGC 7331. And then I realized I've got the Stephan's Quintet in
Yeah.
here. So I did 4 hours of centering in between those two. And
It's
that's what I
impressive,
got
Wayne.
here.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot
I
of
threw out
galaxy
the
really
in that
nice.
image.
So I threw out the first one. I like how
Hmm.
kind of fluffy the Galaxy arms look in there.
Very cool.
But, and the Stephan's Quintet. Although
Beautiful.
I did find out that one step in the processing must have lost some galaxies, because I looked at just today, I looked at another picture on AstroBin of this, and there's other galaxies in the area of Stephan's Quintet that are gone. I think when I did the star mask, they may have gone over as
Oh,
a
yeah.
star. And then
Yeah.
when I blended them back, they just were faint and didn't translate at the level that
Look at
if
that
I
little
stretch.
galaxy up on top,
Yeah.
Wayne. That's kind of neat. You can see
Yeah,
the
that
root
one's a
structure
cool
and
one
stuff.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
that's
that
a neat
one.
one.
A bar.
I like that one.
Yeah, me too.
And
Wayne,
there's a bunch of galaxies in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wayne, what did you shoot that with?
That's a stellar view, 80 millimeter, a stellar view ED 80 or ADED
Like an
telescope.
F6
5,
native,
yeah,
something like that.
F7, I think.
Okay.
I
From
think
your
it's
home.
F7.
From your home.
So, no, this was from Green Lane, and some of it might have been from Hickory Run.
That is really
I
nice.
forget now,
Yeah.
but
I like that. Yeah, that's really
Nice
cool. I love seeing the
composition.
dust lanes. The dust
Did
lanes.
you
are
use any
Yeah.
filtration, Wayne, on this?
no.
No.
I think I have an IR filter on the
Yeah.
camera. That's all. An
Really
IR
nice.
cut filter. But yeah, there's a galaxy over here, and a
Couple
couple
there.
of them over here, and there may be a galaxy there. I'm not sure.
Really
And,
nice.
yeah, they're
The composition is really
and
nice
when you
like
look
that with the
around,
deer
there's
lick and Stephens.
Yeah.
things. But I was having trouble stretching this without getting these stars. Some of these stars are getting weird effects if I stretch them too
Yeah.
much. And,
Yeah, you get some halos.
yeah, some ringing, I guess. Or
Yeah, it's hard to control on those bright ones, especially that bluish fringe. I noticed
yeah,
that a lot too.
hmm
yeah. That's
But these
there's
are
another
hot. These are bright,
some more
hot
galaxies up
stars.
here too. I don't know what's going on with this one galaxy here. Looks like there's like 3 dots on it. I
Yeah,
don't know what that's about.
looks like they're interacting a bit too. Look like more like the
Yeah.
whirlpool, kind of a thing going on.
Really
Could
impressive.
be. I haven't investigated it, but there's a lot. I know on the previous print of this, with only, I think it was 3 hours, including the first one that was clipped the left side of the frame a bit. I was able to detect 20 galaxies that
Wow.
Sky Safari Pro could identify, and a couple that it didn't identify, but I could see. So there's a lot in there, but in that area.
That's cool.
But
Really
it all
nice,
depends on
Wayne.
how I stretch it.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Sweet.
So,
let's see, how do I, back?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Who wants
thanks,
to
man.
jump in next?
I got a couple. I think I've shared them online, but I can just talk to them and go. Oh, I don't have to make myself co-host. I still got to share though. Let's see. All right, this was a year ago. This was the Wizard Nebula, and
Cool.
yeah, it was very good seeing that night. I don't know. It's pretty wild.
Where did you shoot this? Was this when you were down at Assateague?
No, this was Green Lane a year ago when I was first starting out.
Green
2
Lane.
hours, 15-second subs.
That's really sharp.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
cool object.
but
That's one on my list. I've never done that, and I can't do it from home, but it's just a cool object.
yeah, no, I really like it. And so I was like, I wanted to revisit it now that I have the rest of my gear going. And so this is it. I did it. This is my most recent image. So I think this is also from Green Lane. I gotta look.
Why is it colored different? Like just how you processed it?
Yeah. So I did it for you because you don't like it whenever people do the fake looking colors. So I'll do one.
The Hubble palette.
I'll
It's
make
the
a red
Hubble
one for
palette
Scott.
versus non-Hubble
This is the Scott palette.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, that pumpkin spice coffee's out.
Yeah, right.
And,
It's that time of year.
You know what I mean?
With
Like,
the
I
Hubble
think
Space Telegraph.
Uh-huh.
The first one does have a
Very
nice
fun.
color to it.
that's right.
It's a little different.
Happy
You
Halloween,
use a
everyone.
filter?
Yeah, I still use this one. I had two narrowband filters, the ones I normally use, HA&O3. And then what I do is I use the photometric color correction and I do a blend, my special patented blend. It's not patented. To get an RGB color scheme out of two colors, then run that through the photometric color correction, and it gives you somewhat realish-ish colors. I call it RGB-ish. But
A lot of detail in there.
yeah, this one was
Beautiful
fun.
tight star images too. Really
Yeah.
nice.
I used the wavelets that you guys taught me about how to use on the planetary. I used it's built into Cyril, so I'll push it with the wavelets, and it gets a little bit grainy, but then I just throw it through the Uber Smooth, and it gets rid of a lot of the graininess, but keeps some of that contrast. So you can see some of these little like Bach globule looking things in the background.
Yeah, look
Really
at that.
nice.
Very cool.
So it was fun. It was fun
That's
to
very nice.
see
Very
the
nice.
difference in a year.
What was
So,
the
yeah.
exposure time on that, John?
Oh,
The
yeah.
other one, their first one was 15-second subs,
15
2
second
hours, I
subs.
think.
These are long 3-minute subs.
3 minutes.
Total exposure was 4.5 hours, roughly.
Okay, you're getting kicked out of the EAA.
Yeah,
No,
that's too
I got
long.
1
Too
foot.
long.
1 foot in each side, right?
Oh man.
But they're pretty narrow bands too. They're 4.5 nanometers. So
So you're guiding, John?
oh yeah, PhD 2. And you can see I like your new setup, by the way, Steve.
Oh, thanks.
I'm excited to see what you are
Yeah,
gonna
early
produce.
days.
I can't get a good
Wow.
picture of my telescope. Come here. Anyway, you can see my little guider piggybacked on top there.
Yeah, can you blow that up any?
I'm trying now. I can send you one offline later.
Sure.
I've failed to pull it up 3 times now. Open. Well, that's about there you go.
Yep.
Most of this is just dew shield.
Yeah.
Yours is an
That's after
F5,
left.
is that correct? Native, Steve?
What?
Your new scope is F5 native?
F4.
Oh, it is F4. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's what this
Is that a cover on the back end?
Yeah, it's just a piece of like a hairnet thing to keep dust out because there's a fan blowing on it all the time.
Hmm.
Keep
So
the
you leave
primer.
that on when you're running?
Yep.
Okay.
Turn it on as soon as I can and leave it running the whole night.
And
Really
what
nice.
do you gain from that?
What do you
Just
call it? It's
keeping
like
dust out.
I gain superstition. I
Got
don't
it.
know how to.
That's good.
I
The
always keep
idea.
mine capped too, just to keep stray light from coming in. I'm shooting from my backyard. The backyard is light. I'm going to stretch this thing. The light coming in from around the mirror is probably at least as strong as the sky. Ultimately, when it gets because
Oh.
the grass, I can see the grass easy with my eyes, and if it gets exposed to the camera at all, and I actually think that when you cool it down, you keep it open. But once you get it close to outside temperature, I like closing the bottom. I think you get less tube currents, actually.
Oh, really? So you shut it off?
I shut it off. I shut it off on planetary too. I put a cover on the bottom of my 10-inch.
Like a
I
plug,
always
like a
do,
plug.
just to close it up.
That's
And
fascinating.
I mentioned that to Dave Grotsky up who's part of the Delaware group and has made a lot of telescopes and stuff. And he says he does the same thing. He closes the bottom once it gets acclimated.
Really?
Finds less
Yeah,
tube currents.
that's fascinating.
But I
I
mean,
I don't know. I just started doing it that way, and maybe I'll
It
experiment.
sounds like there's an experiment in the making,
All
Joe.
right? It's going to be a hard one to measure the results, I bet.
Oh,
And maybe
yeah.
not.
It
I have
could
Looks
so
be,
like
many
you're out of the
sources
live
that
stacking club, though.
I got
I
booted,
think Tom
right? This
mentioned to me
one.
that he'd like to have a word with you after the meeting.
yeah.
So
He's gonna
Stern
definitely
word.
gonna have my license revoked.
gonna break your thumbs.
I
Yeah.
know.
Very
This one's
nice. Very,
gonna
very nice,
definitely
though.
boot me.
That is
Beautiful
nice.
images.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
great.
I'm happy. This one's on Cepheus. It's called the Lions Nebula. I think most people do it the other way, upside down, but I really couldn't see the line how I did it. And also this is a bit tighter cropped because I'm imaging at about 750 nanometer focal length or millimeter focal length. But I've seen this normally done a little bit farther out. But it definitely pulls some good details. I was
Yeah, the
happy with
detail
great.
is
It
incredible.
looks great.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
And Scott, you can't look at this because it's false color.
Right? This is
Yeah.
color. Sorry.
I understand. Like it looks like a really nice picture. So
It's
We,
got
we
this.
can get you special glasses, like the
Well, don't-
3D glasses.
Yeah.
that'll,
I really
make
like
it
that.
look
I mean,
true
that
color.
it's really stunning with that almost like a floodlight or a searchlight coming out,
Yeah.
you know?
It's
Yeah,
got
that's
this
so great.
weird band.
Yeah,
I've seen
it's
this in
really
other
wild. And you
images
can see it,
too.
or you can see it curve as it gets down further. It goes out
Yeah,
straight and then it
it's
has that
almost,
arc to it, 90 degrees, like a soft 90.
yeah, it's
It's
really
really
it's
bright.
an
It's in other
artifact in
images.
his lens.
No. And then,
It's really
yeah,
something.
this
Yeah.
side has a lot
Great.
more
It's
O3
cool.
going on over here. And I like these little wispy things.
That looks like some kind of a little
Wow.
piggy animal or something.
Yeah,
You
this
zoom
one.
out, like this looks like a little mouth, a little eyes here, like down at that bottom part. I know you can't see. Yeah, there.
Oh
There's like
yeah,
an
yeah.
eye, a little
Technically.
gap for a mouth, and like a little floppy nose.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
We got to rename it.
Platypus.
The
Maybe it's a
Platypus
Yeah,
Nebula.
platypus. That sounds like a platypus. Yeah.
Little beak. But so one thing that I really like, this has happened to me a couple times. If you've imaged the Heart Nebula, this happened to me. But I was like, what is this? Way down in the corner here. I almost cut this off. This little guy here is some kind of wolf-rayet,
Oh, look at that.
maybe like a binary pair, and it's like whipping around, ripping off some O3.
Where is that relative to the other one again? Can you zoom back out? Because I'm
Yeah, so
looking at
this,
mine now and trying to compare it.
so it's
Oh, it's pretty far out.
Pretty far out.
yeah.
It's tiny.
This is a very similar looking one in the
Yeah,
Heart
look at
Nebula. It looks like a little pancake.
And what is this what is it we're looking at? What's the object?
This little thing down here.
No. The whole complex.
Oh, okay. The whole complex is. Let me go back to. Whoops. So it's sharpless 132,
Oh, 132. Okay.
and they call it the Lion Nebula. And this is the one I camped out up at Hickory Run. So I let it this one night. I just let it run the whole night, and got almost 7 hours. And thinking back, I heard noises when I was half asleep, and it could have been a bear, but I don't know. I didn't
Right,
want to
a
look.
lion.
A lot. No,
A
I hope
lion.
not.
It's the Lion Nebula.
Right.
You summoned it up.
So those are my images I got. I'm happy. It was a
Yeah,
dry
They're
summer,
great.
I'll tell you.
Very nice. Very
Yeah, they're
nice.
nice. So John, you had mentioned that I guess it was during the clinic, the DVAA clinic up at Green Lane. I mentioned about monochrome, and you made a comment that to the effect that unless you're doing sort of false color narrowband, you didn't see as much of a need for something like monochrome, like in other words, doing conventional RGB compared to a one-shot color camera. Can you explain a little more what your thinking is
The
there?
easiest way to explain it is if you pull up your mosaic again and look how pretty that is. You don't need RGB filters. Like you did that with a one-shot color, and it's
Correct.
amazing. And like that's,
So
I mean,
basically don't spend the time on getting that higher resolution from a monochrome camera for RGB.
yeah,
Spend it doing narrowband
yeah.
on false color.
That's my feeling.
Interesting.
You might, so you do get a little bit better resolution in the reds, but if you're doing a full color image, I don't think people are going to notice.
Gary, leave well enough alone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't help myself, Scott.
And it's also just a pain in the butt. I during the Black Friday sale last Christmas, I bought the big old, I think I told you, the 2" by 7" filter changer,
Yeah.
and it's still in the box. I don't want to put this big thing on my telescope and have it cycle through LRGB. And I've tried LRGB once, and just a little bit of things out of alignment, my like diffraction spikes, the different colors, I could see it.
Oh,
And
that's right. I think you showed that one time.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't care for that image. It was from a good location in Assateague, but I would need a lot more practice, I think, to be able to produce a good LRGB image doing it individually. I think I would rather just get a separate one-shot color and leave it set up for that.
I
Dark skies.
did it once myself just to do it.
What'd you
And
think?
it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
So you felt it was like too much, like too much work for the gain? Like it wasn't worth the effort, Steve?
Yeah, I was just too tired after it. Now it's I think people I'm old, but I'm not old doing this astrophotography. So you guys who have been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years, if you have that process down pat, I think you can get a better image out of it. But you have to be very particular about it and very consistent and repetitive about your process. I mean, I believe from not having a lot of experience doing it, I only did it once or twice, that you could get a better picture, but it's a lot of work. So I don't know, Gary, do you have a history no, okay.
Of not a monochrome, no. Even when I shot film, I shot color. I mean,
I think
I did shoot some black and white, so just monochrome, but never
right.
never the equivalent of a monochrome sensor with filters. No, I mean, I did it. I got an RGB camera just because I was going from a DSLR and I liked the convenience of one shot color. But I've seen some jaw dropping monochrome images shot with like all 7 filters. They'll do RGB plus add some narrow band in to bring up, the H alpha and the O3 emission stuff, or the O3 reflection stuff. But it's just kind of like in the back of my head that at what point do you top out? And I don't think I'm at that point. I think I can learn how to better process and get deeper data it seems like this whole, depth of data really brings out those details. I find that, I've said this before, if you have really clean data, the processing goes very smoothly. It's like a piece of cake to do the processing. And I really noticed that with Cherry Springs trip, how, having those dark skies brings out all this other stuff. I can do it in my backyard, probably with 50 hours of integration time or something. Because for every magnitude difference in the sky, in like the visual limiting magnitude, it's 2.5 times the exposure time to get that same detail in those dark areas. So I think I'd probably just do more of that, try to get to Assateague or try to get to Hickory Run or something rather than the backyard as much.
Yeah, for me, I only have the backyard, so
Yeah.
I have to work within what I have.
Yeah, but I think you're in a darker area than I am, I believe, right? Your skies are fairly dark, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm 5'6". You're probably 7.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so you look at that, that's in order to get kind of apples to apples signal noise ratio, it's probably I need 4 times more data than you would, or maybe even more.
Yeah, 6, 6, 7.
Yeah.
This was that RGB one. I was.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, the spikes, you can see the.
Yeah, the different filters didn't quite line up right because meridian flip and stuff, and it's hard to get it right.
Oh yeah, you mentioned meridian flip. That was part of my issue too.
Very interesting, though.
I mean, some of it came out pretty good, but
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot of work.
That star is really hard to deal with anyway.
That is hard to deal with.
Is really bright.
Sure, fair, but no,
That's
2
crazy.
filters. That's good for me. I don't even use sulfur. I don't know. That's more work.
So if we want to talk about false color or not, I actually had a question about. I was doing the not that one. Eagle Nebula. I just processed it last night with it, and I was looking at some pictures of M16, and I was wondering what is the right color for this image, because I mean, at least with like the Hubble one, there's a lot of blue behind it and everything.
Hubble's like not even imaging and visual wavelengths, I don't think.
Right, but I mean, this one's really hard because everyone always picks out the pillars of creation, and everyone I see has like blue behind it. But I saw a couple with red, and I was just trying to figure out how do you figure out the accurate color. Like, I think this is a little more red than it probably should be. Like, it probably should be more pink, as you said earlier. But I was just curious on how you kind of figure out comparative color balance.
I shot it at Cherry Springs with the 9 1/4 with no filter. So I mean that could be, and I'm just looking at this is not, it's just stacked. It's calibrated and stacked, and it's pinkish and whitish.
Okay.
I can when you're done, I can show it. I can share it real quick just to show.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether I kind of
dug mine up. Mine is kind of red down in the bottom there, like right below the pillars, but above it, it gets more whitish.
Yeah,
that's just
exactly how mine is.
Without filters, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of pink on the bottom. So the pillars, one of them, the middle one's dark. The one on the left is pink, and then it gets whitish above it.
Okay. This has the light pollution filter because this is the C-star image of it. So, but I was trying to relearn how to do PixInsight. This is kind of the basic first image that I got, and it just made me wonder kind of how it turned out. So,
yeah.
Actually, mine's there's little traces of blue above all the basic nebula. Much dimmer. I have some blue and that brownish type of thing around it, you know, that
Mhm.
shows up.
Okay.
Up on top here, where you have the red, up in
Sometimes
this area.
they're mapping the hydrogen alpha to the blue channel sometimes because if
Right.
there's
No, I
sulfur
mean,
in the red channel.
I know the Hubble image
Yeah,
is
yeah.
false color with it, but it was just trying to look at other people's images that, you know,
I'm gonna
definitely
be-
there's a lot of red, but
It's
it
all
wasn't sure like
false color.
how much red.
Yeah, you're probably getting most of that from the filter. From the-
Okay.
Yeah,
But
which
yeah,
looks cool. I think it looks. I think they look.
that's a nice image. What'd you say this
Yeah.
is out of?
This is a sea star.
What?
Yeah, it's 236 10-second frames.
Huh. Can you zoom in on it? You have a very wide desktop or something.
I do.
Okay.
I have an ultra wide monitor, so
Yeah, yeah.
That's
If
great.
my monitor can't fit your monitor. That's awesome. That's cool.
uh, and then my actual background on my computer,
Excuse me.
you could go away. Hard to make everything go away. This is an older picture of IC 434 that I was deciding to reprocess, and I just brought up the data to start it, but I haven't finished trying to process it. But now that I've kind of learned a little bit better, I was trying to go back and reprocess it because this one was obviously on the background's a bit noisy and everything with it. So it'll be interesting to see if I've learned enough. But hey, at least my star is not, you know, completely blown out with diffraction spikes.
Thanks.
So
It looks good. That's awesome to revisit a picture like that.
yeah. I mean, and it's funny. It's actually the third time I've processed the photo, but I'm hoping to be able to get it a lot more accurate with it. So we'll see, and go from there. And then I haven't done anything with it yet, but I just stacked Andromeda, and I'm curious, is my Andromeda upside down? Like, is this normally on the bottom of the image, or does it make a difference?
I don't think it matters, but I mean, a lot of times you'll see it on the bottom. You'll see 110 on the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, I saw Wayne's and it was on the bottom. I'm like, is mine upside down?
No up in space.
There's no up space. Yes, there is.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking at it from the ground, right, it would be on the bottom, right? If Pegasus is, you know, if it's coming up from the east in that orientation.
Yeah.
I guess if it were setting, if it's on the other side, it would flip it over.
This is a telescopic type view. This is what I see, you know, with the inverted top bottom. Like through my scope, I would see this.
Oh, true. That's right. With a reflector.
My camera was probably just upside down. I never changed the orientation of the camera, so I can't say what it is.
Yeah. Well, you can rotate in PixInsight or Photoshop. Just rotate 180.
Yeah.
You want it like
Like I
even
said,
even the horse head, if you want the horse head to be right
that up.
you can just rotate the whole image. It really, I don't think it matters other than, you know, the composition you're going for.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. So, all right, that's all I have for now. I'm finally getting to process a whole bunch of images and figure out which ones are good and all the mistakes I've made over the past.
Back to Len's question at the very beginning, this is really, it's apropos that to keep the old rolls, because like Scott's doing, he's reprocessing them over again. Now that you learn more, you reprocess. So if you manage to save them on a hard drive, just kind of tucked away somewhere, as you learn more, you can go back and revisit those images and you know, see how you've progressed with your processing.
Yeah, I think that is important.
Do you have anything, Joe? Oh, you're
Yeah,
muted.
you're muted.
There you go.
Sorry, I had a little coughing fit there. I have a couple of announcements. This is a bit of good news. Mike Tucker's wife Susan donated his 8-inch SCT to the DVAA. So John Badelschmidt and I are going to go over tomorrow and pick it up. And he also donated many, many books. And I'm not sure what the final disposition of them is going to be, but my guess is they'll probably be offered to DVAA members. So we're going to take a look at them tomorrow. And John, you had asked me to look into getting a planetary imager and to help that fella Tom Skrovnik out. And I lent him my imager for a couple of weeks, and he seemed to do pretty well with it.
Yeah.
But I might be able to get my hands on an ASI 462 planetary imager that we're going to put in rentals. So I have it. I just want to test it out and make sure it's okay, and just make sure I list all the software that everyone is going to need to download to use it. And
Is that
the
a
other
color?
thing is, I'm sorry?
Is that one color?
Yeah, the 462 is what I use for
That's what you're
all
okay.
my
Yep.
stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really
That's
good.
also
Yeah,
the chip
so-
that is in the C Star too, believe it or not. The 460.
Yeah, so we're working on that, and I should have more news shortly with that. And the other thing is, I'm kind of on the hook for the observing report at this month's meeting, but the week after that is going to be a really good apparition of this comet, Suchinshan Atlas. So Bill is going to be doing the November meeting, and I was hoping he was going to be here tonight because I was thinking it might be worthwhile for myself or someone to contact him in case there are a lot of images. He can show them at the November meeting at his observing report.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm
Hopefully
going to
he
speak
gets
with him,
down
and hopefully the comet won't be a bust, and maybe he doesn't need to prepare very much other than, showing other people's images. So I'm hoping that that's going to work out. I was hoping that he would have been here tonight, but I just kind of got a brainstorm last night. So that's that. I do have a couple of little images to show real quick.
For the comment, do you know how well the Sea Star can pick up comets? Do any of us know that?
I
saw
don't
some
know.
pictures.
Does okay.
I mean, there's a number of pictures. If you go to space weather and look at the comets back, especially a few months back when Brooks was up in the sky and Olber was up higher and stuff. A lot of people use sea stars and got some relatively decent images. The tricky thing is with comets, most of the time you really can't expose more than about a 2-minute max total exposure before it starts to drift against the background. So then you have to start doing where you take the comet out of the picture and stack all the comets together and play around with that, where you get sharp stars and sharp comet, which really isn't what's typically seen. And I know Dick Steinberg has strong feelings on this. I remember in all the photos you used to see of comets, you'd have a nice comet and you'd have streaks of stars going by because they were guiding on the comet. And that kind of gave you a feel for the motion of the comet by the length of the star streaks and the exposure. Now, that comet in particular, the one is this 23A3, in May, it really didn't start trailing for about the first four minutes of a total exposure using like an 800 millimeter focal length. So that was one of the longer ones. But so with the Sea Star, to get it in there and with the field rotation and stuff, you're probably going to be limited to about 2 minutes. But you could take a series of them and make a nice GIF maybe, which is always fun.
What's the maximum of Sea Star? Isn't it a 30-second exposure
Yeah,
max?
30-second max.
30 seconds max.
But I mean, you could, but you can stack, up to like if you had 30 seconds, you would stack 4 images, maybe. But actually, that's not many images. You're better off probably doing 10 seconds and getting more frames, so you get more smoothness with the background. You're fighting this, the exposure versus, I was watching today again a bunch of YouTube videos, and one of them proved that short subs are better, and one of them proved that long subs are better, just today. And actually, what I've noticed is on today's videos is that the contrast is better with long exposures. The signal to noise is usually a little better, but not by a heck of a lot.
Not
But the
by a lot.
sharpness is a little better in the short exposures. You get better
Right.
better small detail.
Smaller star images too.
Yeah, so I mean, but there's trade-offs there. So you're kind of playing the game, and you want enough of frames, to get the background somewhat smooth. It's good to have at least 20 frames or so, I would think, to get things smooth. And I like 100 or more, but it's easy to get when you're doing 3 seconds. You can get a lot quickly. But
Since you're talking about it, I realized that this isn't the C Star. This is my C73. That I have a comment. It's C2022E3. I don't know specifically which comment that was.
That's Brooks, probably. I think that's Brooks.
I took it in February 23.
Probably Brooks then, because that was the one that was around when the eclipse was going on in early April.
Yeah. So I have 120-second exposures.
Yeah.
Of it. So, there's a little bit.
This should be brighter than that, even if it doesn't really have breakout brightness, which it probably won't. But it might do pretty good with the backscatter, because the way it's positioned, it's in a position to kind of brighten up for a few days, not a long time, but for a week or so. They'll get a magnitude or so brighter than it normally would have. They were saying, but even without that, it's probably going to be about 2 magnitudes brighter, which is 5 times roughly brighter. So that's pretty significant, especially if the tail with the backscatter, the tail may really come up. The tail will really, so even with a 2-minute exposure, you should get a pretty cool tail, or a possibility for a cool tail, even with a C Star.
It's going to be moving very quickly.
Yeah.
Good thing is I have ASI Air on my Z73 as well. So as long as I get it out there, hopefully, I got one comment, so hopefully I can get another.
I'm thinking I'm just going to put the C Star out, just let it do its thing, and then I'll be looking at it and photographing it with something else as well. That's just kind of a background thing going on, But
it's going to be very bright and hopefully, but moving very quickly.
When is it supposed to start being visible?
Well, the moon, the night of the meeting is around the full moon. So every night after that, the moon is rising later and later. So the meeting is what, on the 18th? The week, starting Monday through Thursday afterwards, it's going to be in the evening sky and in Serpent's Caput. So, but it's going to be moving pretty quickly from night to night. So it'll probably behoove shorter exposures.
Yeah, you're going to be shooting shorter totals.
If it doesn't break up.
Was that east or west in the sky?
West.
That's in the
after
west,
sunset.
Southwest, really.
That's a problem.
Yeah, but you want to go somewhere where you get as dark as you can, because that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it hopefully it'll be spectacular,
Now,
anyway.
What I've done sometimes, Scott, is I'll just put it on I will put the comet, especially if you have an equatorial mount at all, like if you have your Sharp Star or your Red Cat, whatever you have there, and you're just shooting pictures. I would shoot 10-second exposures and just keep shooting them, keep following the comet. And then when you go to stack it, see how many frames you can stack before it begins to blur. And so if you can do, you do okay, you do it for 30 seconds. Okay, no blur. Add a 4th frame. Okay, no blur. And just keep adding them. And then you can slice and dice all of your raws and have a series of images that are taken one after the other, which then gives you the nice GIF, actually, ultimately. You can just pull them together.
You essentially stack a set of them to get a brighter, and then you make a GIF out of the sets of stacks that you make.
Yeah. But you're going to do each step, but it's a way of kind of if you shoot relatively short exposures, 10, 15 seconds max, you can just keep shooting and not worry about doing just 2 minutes and restarting in 2 minutes, have the thing already kick off. You can just let it go. And maybe if it's not moving much that night, you get 2.5 minutes. Maybe it's only 2 minutes. Maybe it's 1:45 is all you get before it gets elongated. But if you have a series of frames, you can just stack them. you just kind of play around. You just stack the very first ones you're shooting, and just see how many frames you can put together before it begins to elongate, and that becomes what you do the rest of the frames at, and then you can, if you unless you're going to go and pull the stars out and try to stack the image on top of one another and do that kind of a thing.
Option, because it's moving so quickly, you shoot it over 2 nights and shoot a starless image of the comet one night and then shoot the background the next night. And then just combine them,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the software that I use won't. I don't know though. The new Sharp Cap. I don't know if it has Comet. I thought I saw Comet tracking, which is ridiculous. Which might be a game changer then. But
Yeah.
But it typically just stacks stars, so I can't.
Right.
So as I'm taking them, I'm just taking them away, and then I've tried in the past. I know people have used Deep Sky Stacker and have a thing pull out the comet. I've had zero success with that.
I've had little success with that.
Yeah,
I've
so I
tried
don't
that
know.
too.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, obviously, a lot of people come up with have used stuff and it works great.
Right.
I've never got to that point.
I've used the ASIR for comet tracking, but what I found was that you have to really turn off dithering. Because if you dither,
Yeah.
it tries to reacquire on a star. And it was driving me crazy one night when the first time I tried it, because I have dithering on as a default. And it would track the comet for a while. Because I wanted the classic kind. I wanted the comet to be sharp and I wanted the star trails. And like I would turn away and then turn back, and all of a sudden the comets are blurring because it's tracking on a star. And it took me probably 20 minutes to realize, you have dithering on, and it's when it's reacquiring. I dither every 3 frames typically. So when it's dithering, it's reacquiring on a star.
Yeah, right.
Once I turned that off and I picked the comet as the centroid, it ran, it ran the rest of the time. And that was just using the ASIR.
Yeah.
So I would think you could do a similar thing with any application that allows you to select what you're guiding on.
Yeah.
It's interesting though.
But anyway, it's going to be a really good opportunity.
You're saying guide on the comet.
You say you guide on the comet? I'm sorry.
If you want that kind of picture, yeah, you guide on the comet. Otherwise, you can guide on the stars, and then you can align on the comet. The software allows you to align on a comet, and then it'll blur the stars.
And you take a longer.
Because they're different every frame.
Your comet's your long integration time, so that gives you more tail and everything else.
We're not, hopefully, I mean, it might be spectacular, and you might be able to get by with really short exposures, and you can just stack it any way you want, both ways.
I mean, Neowise
the weather's favorable.
What was Neowise about? Magnitude 1 type of thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this they're saying the best estimates now I saw were like magnitude 2. It looks like it's going to survive and not break up. That's the latest.
Yeah.
But it's probably going to closer
It's
to
all over the
2.
place though. It's just all the reports seem to be different,
Yeah.
But they are talking about the backscattering, and hopefully that will really help it.
That could really make the tail much brighter, so it'd be easy to capture.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I'll just show you these real quick. I know it's getting late, and I keep you guys, but let me see if I can pull these up.
While you're bringing those up, Joe, I'm just going to mention I'm picking an 8-inch donation scope up tomorrow.
You too?
It's a Meade SCT. It's the LS8, I guess it is.
How about
And
that?
I haven't seen it, but I'm picking it up tomorrow, and I'm hoping that I can store it in the shed. But Jan thought she sent me the credentials, but she did not. So
I have the creds. Huh?
yeah, but I'm thinking, I don't know if you want to test it out since you're familiar with the SCTs.
I mean, I'm going to be up there twice tomorrow.
I can't pick the scope up before like 5:30 tomorrow night.
Okay.
So
well, let me know. I mean, I can either give you the creds or go up with you. Doesn't matter.
I mean, I can wait. Well, yeah, I'll talk to you offline. Let's see what you got here.
Yeah.
Saturn
Okay.
good.
Yeah, these are just, the planet images are actually taken with a 12.5 inch reflector that was, that lens sold to me years and years and years ago. And I used it like in 2006, 2007, 2008. And then I damaged the tube, and then, I had 3 weddings and a couple other things going on, and it kind of sat idle. So, we had some issues last week, and I had a week on my hands where I didn't have anything to do. So I got it back in service. And these are a couple of images on a kind of a really not a great night. In fact, I put these through AutoStacker, and these are only like 8% of the images saved. Before I went into Registacks and everything, but I thought they were decent, so I thought I'd share them. It's Jupiter.
I shot that same night, Joe, but I haven't processed them yet. But it wasn't, yeah, it was
Right.
supposed to be a really good night, but it really was not a really good night.
It wasn't a great night,
Yeah.
but
It was
I
okay,
thought
but
I thought these were okay, and it's a Zambuto mirror. It's really a beautiful mirror. Shot these. This is an f5 mirror, and I shot these at f20.
If you double click the image, will it pop up?
Can you see it?
it's
We're-
small.
No, you're
looking
sharing
at
just the
thumbnail.
folder.
It's just the
Oh, I'm sorry.
thumbnail.
Oh,
Also, you're
I,
sharing.
I'm
just
seeing it. I don't know why you guys aren't.
You're sharing just the window, not
showing
your
your,
whole screen or
folder.
whatever.
Your Windows Explorer.
About that. Sorry about that.
You share your desktop and then you can double click anything, it'll go up to it.
If you just do a share entire screen, then you can pick what you want out of it.
Sorry about that.
You're just
This
teasing
is
us
what I
with these
do all
little
the time.
thumbnails.
I went out the following night too, Joe, and it was supposed to be a clear sky clock, and Astrophotography was saying it's going to be really good and all, and it wasn't as good as the 11th.
Right.
I was very disappointed.
Can you guys see that?
It's
You
stuck
still
on
see,
your
we're seeing your
Still the thumbnails.
folder.
yeah, we're seeing desktop Astro Image 9/18, 9-18.
Yeah, that
Right.
whatever that
We're
is.
seeing that where your mouse is
Just
there.
that. Yeah, you might as well blow that up.
There you go. Just double click on that.
You see it now?
We see just a tiny thing on the right now.
Oh my
The
goodness.
preview.
It's just sharing your Windows Explorer instead of everything. So stop sharing and then share your desktop.
Yeah.
Yeah, just stop sharing and share your desktop. Just back out completely.
You see now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Wow.
Great.
Oh, that's nice.
So that was Saturn on that night. And that's only like 8% of the images that I saved. But I was kind of happy with it, so I'm looking forward to maybe doing a little bit more work with these.
Yeah.
You see that?
Very cool.
Is that the Cassini division on the
Yeah, it's the Cassini
Yeah,
division.
barely.
To the edge
It's
there?
so close. I mean,
Ready?
the rings are so close to being edge on. They're going to be edge on in March. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see it because it'll be so close to the sun. But it's getting really, really small at this point.
Now, did you look visually, Joe?
Yeah, I did. I
How
did.
easy was Cassini's division?
Very difficult. I didn't look
That's
under
what I
really-
found. On the 10
Yeah.
inch, I struggled, and I had to kind of just look at for those moments of clear seeing
Right.
just to see the black arc, It was tough.
Yeah. So this was a little thing of the moon that I did.
We're
This
still
I was
is
seeing
going to do
Saturn.
something.
still showing
Still seeing
Saturn.
Saturn, Joe.
You can? Really? Jeez.
What camera did you use on that, Joe? On Saturn?
I think I used the 462 on
Yeah,
that.
that's what. Yeah, it looks,
My 462.
yeah,
Um,
I like that camera.
let's see. And you see the moon now?
No, I still see
That's still
Saturn.
Saturn.
Why don't you just close the Saturn
This is
window?
Saturn. I did, actually. I think I did.
You can't stop it.
It's not open.
From Windows Photo Viewer?
Yeah, I'm with Windows Photo Viewer and I can see Saturn.
Hit the over button and it might go to the next image. And even if that's all it's shared, it'll let you go to the next one.
You have to sign, yeah, because they're all in the same folder. Maybe you can just
Can you
click,
see that?
just still see
It's
Saturn.
still stuck.
Can you see that?
Nothing's changing.
Because I'm going
Are you
through all
doing
the images. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Just Saturn.
Oh well. Forget it. It's okay.
No. Click,
Aw.
just
Stop.
go
I
back out and
stopped the
come in.
share.
No, go back in and come in. That was, I
Go
want to
back
see
in.
those moon shots too.
Just
I want
share
to see
your
that Jupiter
desktop.
shot. I
Share
haven't
your
seen
screen.
Jupiter this. I haven't, you're staying up late photographing Jupiter.
There we go. I
There
see
you
a
go.
I see
moon.
that.
Now, I'm sorry about that.
That's good.
So this is just, I was going to do a little something in October on Mare Serenitatis, So I did this little thing of the moon, just as kind of like a little finder chart. But so the Mare Serenitatis is there, and I'm sure you guys already know that. And I photographed this crater here and this area down here. And I just wanted to this is Mare Serenitatis and then Mare Tranquillitatis here. And these are the Apennine chains here and the Himalayas Mountains here. And over here is Lacus somniform. So, and what the thought was when this was flooded with lava, it kind of overflowed into this Lacus somniorum here, and that's Mare Frigoris here. And I took a couple of images of this and this area down here. This is Lamalier here and Posidonius. So I'm going to show them and then kind of real quick and we'll be done.
Is that the 12-inch, Joe?
I took that with my SCT.
Okay.
I took the moon images with the SCT.
Okay.
But that's the Saturn image and that's the
Oh, there's
Jupiter
the
image.
Jupiter.
That I
Came out
took
pretty
from that
good.
night.
Yeah.
Um,
Is this on the 11th, Joe?
yeah, this was all like
Okay,
different
yeah,
parts of the night.
I didn't stay up that late for Jupiter to clear the house.
Oh man, I was exhausted. That was like 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
because
I
I
know.
have like a state forest. The guy next to me has got like all these oak trees and they're like 150 feet tall. So I have to wait till it's almost on the meridian to shoot it. This is Posidonius.
You zoomed
On
in
the
on an
eastern
astronaut
shore.
footprint.
This was Tom. I shot this at f40.
Wow.
Yeah, f40.
How many bar
I know. I should be,
And is it now? Is that an 11 or 9? It's 11, right?
the 11.
F40.
Yeah, I shot this with the 11.
Woohoo!
But I think you could do the
440
same.
inches.
You could do the same with an 8 or a 9, I think. I don't think it's any. I mean, I think it's more seeing dependent than anything.
Seeing is
You know.
that's 11,000 millimeters and change.
Yeah, a lot of millimeters there.
Yeah.
But this is kind of a cool crater because the floor of the crater kind of just warped and kind of buckled. And it has a lot of rills and things like that running through it. So I thought that was kind of cool.
It has kind of that swirl too. You see how it goes around, it's almost, it opens up and it comes down the other
Yeah.
side.
And some of it
there.
they think might be due to the fact that, the whole Mare Serenitatis, like different lava flows came in over time and the whole thing slumped. And that was on the edge of it. So, that might have caused the floor of the crater to crack.
Yeah.
But here, this is another area that I photographed. So the area above is this little crater here. That's the crater Latreille. And this is shot at f42. This is the Taurus Latreille Apollo 17 landing site. And this didn't turn out quite as well. I don't think the scene was quite as good when I shot this. But they landed right here. And this is like the North Massif. And these were the sculptured hills. And this is the South Massif. And one of the things, there were little tiny volcanic cones on the floor this here that they were kind of investigating because they wanted to see where they thought it might be a source of really young rocks. And then up here, they thought these blocks were extremely old, and there was a landslide right here, which most of it is in shadow, but you can see a little bit right here.
Yeah.
And that's the other area that they sampled because they thought that that would have the oldest lunar rocks. So, but the landing site was right here. So that's the Apollo last lunar mission. That's where they were, and it's right on the edge of Mare Serenitatis. And there were a couple of other landers too. Let's see if I can. Oh, sorry. The Russians landed here in Le Mallier. They landed Lunar 22, and then the Israeli lander that crashed, Bereshit, about 2 years ago, landed like right up here in the northern part of Mare Serenitatis. So that's that.
Very
Wow.
nice.
Anyway,
Very interesting.
Yeah, thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that.
thanks.
Very cool.
I should be flogged for F40. I mean, that's like breaking all the rules, I guess.
Yeah,
but
right. That's
I figured I'd try it, you know?
yeah.
That's
really,
extending the boundaries.
yeah,
Yes.
it's a perfect sky type conditions to get F40. You're really up there.
Anyway, so that's
But you
that.
captured something. That's good, man.
Cool.
But that 40.
I'm going to share one thing real quick. This goes back to your question, Scott. That's the colors. This is unprocessed M16.
Okay. Yeah, so you got more blue in yours.
This is just stacked, calibrated sub. This is 2 hours and 38 minutes worth of data, 2-minute subs, 79 2-minute subs.
With any
Just
filter?
to give you an idea.
Did you have a light pollution or any filter?
This has it has that quad, that
Yeah.
light pollution suppression, but it was under a dark sky site.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I didn't take it out is because I didn't have a glass to replace it.
Place
And
to
I
put
didn't
it,
want
yeah.
I didn't want to have to refocus.
Keep it clean, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think I think from what I've seen, the colors are fairly true through that filter.
Yeah.
Because it's really meant to just suppress a couple light pollution spikes from artificial lighting.
Nice.
And then the other thing was this is a comet image where I tracked, this is the one I was talking about. So
It's
this
the
is
same comment.
using the ASI air to track on the comet itself.
Okay. That's the same comment that I had pictures of.
This is 2022.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's C 2022 E3, but I took it in February 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is 33 1-minute exposures tracked on the comet. Beyond that, the comet was starting to smear. You could see a little bit. Actually, it's fairly round. The 1 minute's worked out pretty good. If I did 2 minutes or 90 seconds, the comet was smearing. And you can see the gaps, the little gaps. That's where it was like there's a couple second delay between frames.
Cool.
So that's what that is. When you zoom out, you hardly see those little gaps between frames.
Nice.
Come on, you go in paint shop and fill in each one of those little gaps so nobody notices.
Oh yeah, I'll get right on that.
Yeah.
Wait. John, can you create an AI that does that for us real
Oh,
quick?
yeah. I have ChatGPT write me a program.
Write me a program to fill the gaps in my star trails.
Hey, Scott, I'm going to just real quick, if I can. I'll show you the one thing of the eagle, just my version of the eagle here,
Yeah.
just real quick. I don't know, can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But same thing with Gary's, it's red down here and whitish up here. It's a little tinges of blue up in here, but mainly it's the big pink and the light much. And then I increased the saturation more than Gary did to bring out the pink more.
Okay. Yeah, I think your color is closer to mine. Like I think I did the red a little extreme, but it was
But
getting
the top
late.
is definitely lighter than the bottom. by quite a bit.
Okay.
Anyway,
No, that's
What
good to
was the
know.
exposure on that, Tom?
I think that was 1 hour.
The subs?
Yeah, subs one. My subs.
No.
My subs. Let me tell you. I'll probably own the picture. Let me just look at my picture here. It says 1 hour, 1,200 frames. So there were 10-second subs.
Wow,
Okay.
cool.
So here's my just stacked image. So my stacked image is more brownish than reddish with it. So I think that's why it kind of all comes out the same color, because it doesn't have a lot of difference in the brown. So it kind of just all the browns together. But like I said, this is from the Sea Star, so I mean it's still a decent picture. So.
Very much so. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it came out right. Like I said, I think I might have overstretched it a little bit, but I kind of also liked it being a little bit brighter red with it. So it makes a really nice background too.
Now, Scott, I took my Sea Star out to Cherry Springs where the sky is really dark, and it's really incredible the difference. I mean, I got the Helix Nebula in less than half an hour, has lots of color and everything. That's just a plain JPEG, untouched JPEG out of the box, what Sea Star spits out. And even like the Triangulum galaxy, that was like 31 minutes, and you could see a lot in it, for just a plain JPEG, totally unprocessed. I hope to process all those guys. I saved the raws. I hope to process all those images that the Sea Star took, just to see what the Sea Star can do in like the half-hour frame in the half hour, of total time from a site like Cherry Springs. I think it's gonna come out pretty cool.
I mean, I would say Sea Star does a pretty good job in itself of.
Yes, I mean it's not bad for out of the box. It's really
the
a great
stacking it does
education.
is
Really
actually pretty good.
It's a picture that when I was doing film stuff, I would have died for with a JPEG that it spits out,
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
incredible.
this is the Sea Star from M31, no, M51 that I stacked. And let me see if I can find it real quick of the original. M51. So there's a JPEG so the on the right's the JPEG out of the Sea Star, and then the left is the stacked of all the subs in PixInsight without any additional work. And I mean, I started processing a little bit.
Yeah, you can look at the color you have in the JPEG and everything. I mean, it's pretty good. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
it's an amazing little device.
The problem that I have is that I realize is that the bottom is like miscolored because there's a whole bunch of clouds that went through the photo. Like every single photo has clouds in it. So for now, I kind of gave up processing it because I'm like, the one that came out of the Sea Star was better than what I was getting. So why put more effort into it until I could figure out how to do like clouds and all that type of stuff? So it wasn't a good night that I took this picture. I think this was when I think this is when the bear tried to eat me.
Hickory. Oh no.
But all right, that's all I got.
We're over time, but I want to make sure, Brett, did you have anything? I know I didn't want to make sure you had a chance if you want to show anything. Oh, you're muted, but it sounds like no.
I had my first pass with some test data through PixInsight. I have two quick ones here to show. That's
I'll
okay.
wait. No one else has to hang around, but I'll look at it.
Well, I appreciate it. Hang on.
Yeah.
That's the M31.
Oh yeah.
That's 2-minute subs and 4 hours. And then this is 2 hours of M45, 2 minutes. That was it.
Quite nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I'm still, learning to walk in processing in PixInsight and still learning how to collect data properly. But I was happy to have some outcome.
You got results, man. This is great. You got the little the wispy reflection stuff. That's hard.
Yeah, that was it. Thanks.
Oh, the
Yeah, good,
Andromeda, you have little red spots. How'd you do that in Andromeda?
I don't know.
That's good. It's like the
I was going
HA.
to say it had more red to it.
Had the hydrogen tube regions were
Right?
showing up pretty good.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can show it again if you wanted to.
I've heard of people like using a filter just to get that. It's like an advanced technique, and I was like, "Are you doing that advanced technique already?"
No, no, of course not, John.
I don't know. That's awesome. It looks great. You're getting good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
That's so cool.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
well, I'm going to sign off.
yeah.
All right,
Take
guys.
care, everybody.
Thanks,
Y'all
everyone.
have a good night.
And thanks for hosting, John.
Yeah, good job, everybody. We'll see you next
Thank
time.
you.
Take care.
Thank you all.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.